it just came to me to do it. I don't know what sparked me to do it. I was inspired. I think I was out on the land a lot. I was doing these, they call them mountain tours, where they were doing jeeps with people. I learned a lot of the chaparral and the primitive technologies and native plants. And so I'd do these tours to locals that would come. And anyhow, I'd be out there showing them all this stuff. And then one day I found a bunch of casings. And I was like, what am I going to do with these? But I found a crystal mine in Arkansas. And set up some accounts with them. They started shipping me some things, and so I started playing around putting the crystals in the casings as like a piece.
Yeah.
The casing had that energy, so it's like I use a lot of found objects. What I particularly find interesting is the imprint of memory on the object.
Well, hey everybody, welcome back.
Hey everybody.
I'm Logan.
And I'm Nicole.
And we're Generation X Paranormal. So we have a great show. I always say that, but we do. So as some of you folks know, some maybe that don't, I'm from Arizona. And we went to visit my family in October. And this was October of 2024. So no, I don't know when you're listening to this or watching it, but that was when it was. And we're there for quite a while. We're almost there for a month. So, but it was a good time. And how we kind of ended it, we wanted to take a trip up to Sedona. And we're going up there to just do what most people do in Sedona, check out all the cool stuff and the hike and everything. Mm-hmm. And if you're into the woo-woo, the cool woo-woo stuff,
it's the best place for it.
It is the best place for it. But in doing so, we were a little ahead of my sister who was going to join us there. And, you know, what you do in any other town, you drive around for a little bit aimlessly looking for something to do. And we stumbled across a arts and crafts place. So
arts and crafts fair.
A little fair. So when we did, we met the gentleman we're about to interview. What can you tell us about Greg Bressani?
So Greg is an artist, and he lives in Sedona, and he does multiple mediums of art, which are metal sculpture, charcoal drawing, intuitive readings, and digital arts. But the thing we're mainly here to talk to him today about was something that we bought from him.
We sure did.
Yeah. And they are called crystal channeling rods. Mm-hmm. And we will get into that as we talk to Greg.
Yeah, I can't wait. Mm-hmm. He's so cool. Wait till you get to meet him.
Yeah. Let's talk to Greg.
Yeah. Well, hey, Greg, how you doing?
Hi, guys. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we so kind of a long story short, what is October? We were out in Arizona, and I'm originally from Arizona. We would definitely want to go up to Sedona, and because of course Sedona's gorgeous, and there's so much.
And I love Sedona.
Right, we love Sedona.
Yeah.
If you didn't need to knock over a major bank to live there, we may actually be there, but but we went to a really cool. Gosh, what was it? Just basically like...
we were waiting for your sister and our nephews to get there, and we spotted the little arts and crafts thing. Yeah. And we stopped in, and that's where we met you, Greg.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
cool,
Greg, if you don't mind, we'll kind of get into the whole meat and potatoes of everything, but if you could, for our audience, just sort of give us like a very high flyover of kind of who you are and what's kind of got you to this point.
Yeah, you bet. Originally, I'm an artist. I've been working in this medium of steel for about 30 years. I learned it in high school, and I just kept going with it. Went to art school, and it's kind of during art school that I started having visitations. And we'll talk about that later, but that led me onto a whole new series of adventures exploring the Southwest and kind of understanding this whole thing about energy and spirituality and all kinds of things. I knew nothing about it. Kind of came up, born and raised from like a religious background, Catholic background, but besides that, I knew nothing about any of this stuff. So I took some trips to the Southwest kind of during my college years and discovered all these amazing places, particularly one being Sedona, and traveled there and eventually moved there, and that kind of kept everything in line. So from there on out, what happened? But yeah, for about 4 years, I worked as a park ranger at a particular site there, and learned so much information. It was insane. It was really interesting, and from there on, it was like it was on. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, but I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back here, and I'm loving it. It's great. So I do metal sculpture, and I also do metaphysical products as well. Being out on the land and doing all the things I was doing in the last 25 years, it kind of just developed into that, and some tools that I've been able to create and modality out of it. But yeah, so I guess you could just call me an artist, really. Tuned in, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what's interesting is that I went to school for art as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got into that whole, as you get higher up into art, when it comes to education, they either want you to be a curator or they want you to start defining all these different things. And I'm like, that's just not me. I can't do that. And if you're not a curator of the Met or something like that, you're not making a dime anyway. And there's only about 5 to 10 real big jobs out there that an art major can really have, other than what they do. Part of their love. And I guess I just had a really hard time defining that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's challenging for sure.
Yeah,
to fit into the modern world, to have to work like a full-time job and do your art job is really challenging.
It absolutely
Yeah.
is. Yeah. Well, okay. Let's kind of start getting into the meat and potatoes part, because I think there's so much there. We've obviously talked that you're in Sedona. Now, being an Arizonan, I've always known the mountains and all these rocks and crystals and all these different things were very important to my culture. And I'm half native. I'm also half Scottish-Irish. Or no, Scottish-Swedish, I'm sorry. I can't talk today. And anyway, it's always kind of been known through my culture that there's an attachment to the earth. There's an attachment to there's attachment to all these different things. And Sedona, to me, has always sort of been the pinnacle of that. And obviously up in that area, you have all the different vortexes, and you have all the different, all the different healing type things out there. But there's also a lot of high strangeness out there. There's a lot of, ufology, all these other things that are come into play. So I can see where that kind of lends into some of the stuff that you're involved with now. And I guess we can kind of start with, when we were in our booth, what we picked up, and I didn't see what's in front of you too, are the channeling rods.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show our channeling rods here.
Yeah, baby. Nice.
Yeah, they're awesome.
They are awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
As I like to
Nice.
say sometimes, we're not just in the club, we're clients too. But
Yeah.
but no, they're fantastic. Yeah, if you can kind of tell us, and I know you kind of did this when we met,
Yeah.
but obviously our audience hasn't had the benefit of that. So if you can kind of start with why the rods and kind of how you came up with that.
Yeah, you bet. So around 2012, I was living kind of in the Ojai area, Ventura, Santa Barbara County there of California. I'd moved on from Sedona, went out to study the Chumash culture of California there, particularly rock art styles. I was blown away by a particular rock art style of motifs in Sedona that mirrored some of the ones that were in the California area. So I went out there. Anyhow, I started getting into it, and I have something here. I started making, they're called spirit ammos, and they're bullet casings with crystals put inside. And it just came to me to do it. I don't know what sparked me to do it. I was inspired. I think I was out on the land a lot. I was doing these, they call them mountain tours, where they were doing jeeps with people. I learned a lot of the chaparral and the primitive technologies and native plants. And so I'd do these tours to locals that would come. And anyhow, I'd be out there showing them all this stuff. And then one day I found a bunch of casings. And I was like, what am I going to do with these? But I found a crystal mine in Arkansas. And set up some accounts with them. They started shipping me some things, and so I started playing around putting the crystals in the casings as like a piece. The casing had that energy, so it's like I use a lot of found objects. What I particularly find interesting is the imprint of memory on the object. So this obviously was fired. There's an explosion there. So putting a crystal in there is kind of capturing the imprint and pushing out the frequency as well, kind of broadcasting the frequency. So I started with these. These little guys, how it all started. These little, I call them spirit ammo. But really they turned into like leather cuffs and bracelets and things, and I kind of went on a binge with that. And then it was kind of a trend, at the time. But so over the years, I still kept the crystals and stuff. And at the time, this is about the last probably 8 years, I was living down in San Diego in North County by Carlsbad Village, and I was surfing a lot. And one day I got out of the water and I found this mangled 1/4-inch tube of copper tubing. And I thought, wow, it just looked so cool. It was oxidized, it looked green. And I'm like, wow, this is really powerful. And I thought, what am I going to do with this? So I kept it. And then something just said, hey, try one of those bullets in it, those little crystal points in it. So I did and put it in there. And I was like, okay. But then it really started happening when I put one on each end, like kind of terminated them, double terminated. And then when I finished that, I was like, wow, these are different. Like, I don't know, I would hang on to it and I'd get grounded. And I'd like, wow, there's something to this. Like I knew nothing about any of this stuff other than the bullets and stuff, obviously. But that's when it really started. That's kind of when I started going, there's something to this. I started feeling it, in other words.
For sure. Absolutely.
That's so interesting how that started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because we always, so in fact, I even said this the other day to Nicole. I said, sometimes good things take a long time and then great things happen all at once. And, with that copper, and I'm sure you'll talk more about it than, you probably have a lot more subject matter knowledge than I do of it. But, copper, we've even talked about it before. It's a conductor, right?
Yeah.
So, you look at the rods, and I know for sure you'll go more in depth into it, but, the copper is part of a conducting.
Yes.
And then you've got quartz, and quartz is obviously used in a whole variety of things as far as how memory is stored and things of that nature, especially big time in the paranormal when it comes to ghosts. There's a lot of people that can argue that paranormally, is that a word?
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Yeah.
I like it, man.
I'm with it. I'm okay.
Yeah.
And if it's not, I'm coining it right now. And also, by the way, you need to make sure you trademark Spirit Ammo, because I'm pretty sure there's a band out there looking for it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because that is a kick-ass name. But anyway.
I know.
It's so cool. But anyway, getting back to it, the rare earth, not rare earth, but the earth has provided some very natural things for that. But anyway, I'll let you go ahead, because you're the subject matter expert.
Well, I'm with you. I'm learning as I go too. And honestly, I knew nothing about them. I mean, I knew about these things and they were powerful when I'd wear them. But when I started tinkering around with the copper, that's when it really shifted for me. So then what I started doing, so this is kind of a thinner rod, almost about the size of this. It was about 1/4-inch rod. I don't have any left. I gave them all away, because what started happening was I would have these experiences with them and be like, So I'd give one to my friend, hey, hang on to this and pray for surf, because we would hang on to them, and when you're a surfer, you turn into an addict. You got to have it every day. If you don't, you're like, oh man, you're like, okay. So, that depends on storms and everything else. So we would hang on to it, and I'd give them to my friends and say, hey, let's work together and see if we could get waves. So that was kind of the original intention. But I started to explore, okay, well, how big could I go? As far as like diameter and size of the material. So this was kind of like the small 1/2-inch size I worked up to. Then I got some here I can show you. Then this is kind of like the 3/4-inch size. And then I beefed it up to like the inch size. And that's when things really started getting interesting. I only made a few sets, and I've given my friends, like some of my really good peers, to check out and say, hey, see if you get something out of this. Because what started happening was where, as a tool, how would I use this? So I was using them at work because I was working a lot from home. I had a major job on the computer, so I had a lot of electromagnetic frequency going on, and this was grounding. And I started feeling really, at the end of the day, grounded. So I was like, okay, there's something to these. But it's really when I started meditating with them that it really started working for me. I would find that I would sit there and they'd work, and I'd start to feel like a tingling kind of sensation. And I was like, okay, because like it's copper as the base, and the copper conduit, it grounds us. Obviously, it's a grounding force. You can use your feet and take your shoes off and put your feet in the ground on the soil, and that will ground you as well. But these have a different, more direct. It's almost like it's like an instant voltage, like pinch, like hold you down. Like, wow, okay. But then that conduit, the copper works as that conduit where it's also kind of grounding your frequency, your electromagnetic frequency. And then the crystals come in and almost like start broadcasting, amplifying your balanced energy to the higher dimensions. So I like to say it broadcast it to what I call the non-physical or source energy. People call it God, universe, whatever you want to call it. But anyhow, it starts to tune into that frequency, and then it gets interesting. Just because it kind of, I start to feel like a relationship going on. Like, whoa, I'm not just tuning into myself, but I'm tuning into a higher sort of, I don't know, awareness, I guess, if you want to call it. But
right, yeah.
yeah, so I started working with them, and then the magic really happened. Like around 3 a.m. Okay, so from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., there's this time they call the ambrosial hour. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that or heard the term.
Yes.
Yes.
Or the God hour. Yeah, it's a really powerful time because the sun we're not getting bombarded by cosmic frequency. The sun's at the opposite, so everything's dark, obviously, but it opens up for other cosmic frequencies to come in. And it's a really powerful time to meditate and go into like a meditation just to kind of tune in and pick up frequencies that are normally not available, is the way I put it. They are, you just have to really get into a state, but at that time, I started to like go, whoa, and I started feeling some really deep connections. And I called it the divine mind because it wasn't my thinking or thoughts or feelings. I was getting stuff from like someplace else that was really powerful, correlating with the rods. Like, okay, these rods are coming to you. You can start making these, like get these out. So I noticed that there was a very powerful connection during the meditation. And that's when I was like, wow. Started giving the people, hey, try meditating with them. That you might find it's like a booster, kind of like it grounds you and then sends you out for that connection, kind of, instead of, you can get there on your own as well, but there's something about it that really enhances it in a way.
Right, for sure.
That's so interesting. Yeah, but I think I explained to you at when we were in Sedona about how a lot of people in the paranormal investigators, they use the copper dowsing rods.
Yes!
So it's basically the same thing.
Yes.
Those are my favorite tool to use because they always connect. I always get answers. And so it's the same concept. It's just we don't have crystals with our dowsing rods. People are starting to add that to it.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of weighs it down in a weird way. So I have mine do not have crystals, but it's the same concept. So I totally, when you started telling me about that at the fair, I'm like, yes, that makes so much sense because we've been using it. People have been using it for hundreds and thousands of years that way.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's a really good point. I started doing that, using them as dowsing rods when I'm hiking, and I've been led to some very interesting things. So it works.
Sure.
It works on that frequency too.
How do you use them? I'm curious. How do you use them as dowsing rods since they're straight?
So
hold them
I have different sizes. I usually use my 1-inch ones, and I'll just kind of let them. There's like a balancing point where you kind of just hold them. If you leave it on your pointer finger, and just kind of there'll be a point where it kind of just balances. You can kind of feel them. They kind of balance, and they'll start to like dance a little bit. They'll start to go like you'll see movement, and then they'll kind of like give you a direction to go.
So
in.
cool.
It's like they kind of start moving, and so what I've been able to do is be really sensitive to them and figure out what's happening, and I ask, should I go that way? And then you just kind of use your intuition and kind of go, okay, they're kind of guiding me that way, and then I'll see like a point. Okay, I'll aim for that, and then take a reading or see what I got to do.
Sure.
But yeah,
That's
been interesting.
I'm gonna have to try that out.
Yeah,
I mean, technically, it's the same.
It's the same
right
thing.
Yeah, you're still using a pivot point. It's just now instead of it being on a handle, it's your it's the front of your hand or however you do it.
That's so cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the rods, the dowsing rods you're talking about, right? They have like a little handle, and they kind of spin, like they move, like
right.
And so these are kind of a little bit more restricted, but they kind of do too. Like if you kind of just have to get them in a spot that feels right, and then just allow it to kind of do its thing in a way, like it will start to kind of take over.
Right. And I feel like I do better with the dowsing rods than he does, but I use them a lot, and so they're connected with me. It's just like it kind of you get that connection with them, and then they tell me everything. And he doesn't get as much from that. So that does make sense.
the crystal
Yes,
tube will
apparently
program
I'm
to
not
your
one with the
frequency.
dowsing rods.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
That's
that,
cool.
and then you project
That's
it, and then moving into like the space, it totally interacts. There's like definitely an interaction.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, now that I know that you can use them that way, I'm gonna have to try that out.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And then
When it gets
one of the
warmer outside,
Yeah, I was
anyway.
gonna say.
these guys are
Well, look at
these
those.
are my latest ones. These are the
Oh
inch and a
wow.
half size. They're like massive. And I started using these guys because like the smaller ones are great, but the larger ones, the bigger the better. Like I'm just like, oh man, it's just a different frequency, like a little bit stronger voltage.
Sure.
But they work
Yeah, and
great.
you know
So
that.
I'm really enjoying
That's awesome.
experimenting.
Well, and the thing is, and obviously, our especially with our audience, kind of runs a gamut of folks who are, are believers and they're skeptical and they're this
Yeah.
and that. So it kind of runs the gauntlet. But even when you look at it from just a scientific portion
Yeah.
of it, the bigger you go with the copper, the more conducting you get. I mean, all you got to do is look at basically internet. So internet all
Yeah.
flows through what they call an Ethernet cable, which is just bound up, and it's different lengths of copper, that go to different pins. So it's all copper there. Basically you're using copper for in the old days, and granted
Yeah.
I'm 50, but I remember phones, before they were in your pocket, they were on, they're in your, either in your mom's room or in the
Right.
kitchen but if you ever looked at the phone lines, they were copper. So everything was copper and it carries a signal. So it makes sense to go kind of gradual from a smaller to eventually the size kind of like what you got there with an inch and a half. So
Yeah.
I mean, it makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
Moving it up and to explore like that progression totally. And it's awesome. And I probably could go bigger, but to handle it, you need like two people.
I know. You
They
have
don't
to
make
rest
much
it on
bigger.
your
I think they
shoulder.
make like yeah, right. Like
You start
Yes.
looking like you have a baseball bat on your shoulder. Kind of. I
I
don't know if
know,
you ever
right?
watched The
They're
Walking
like-
Dead, but you look like Negan walking around with a baseball bat on your
Yep.
shoulder. Yeah,
That's funny.
That's amazing. So, out of curiosity, okay, so provided someone in our audiences reaches out, and I'm sure some will, and they
Yeah.
purchase some. What are some of the techniques, and kind of walk them through how they would utilize it for their own uses?
You bet. So I got the website going. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty easy, user friendly. You can go on there and check them out. The three sizes I have are the small, medium, and large. I'll just go with the medium ones because they're right here. But what I usually, okay, so a lot of people say, well, you get two. And most people say, oh, I've never seen anything like that. And the thing is that I was told by source two is important because it creates the circuit. It connects the circuit. If you just use one, you could use one too, but the two is going to really create that circuit. Like, almost like, like a wire circuit. You need all the wires lined up and everything connects. So it's almost like connecting the circuits with two and holding one in each hand. You'll start to feel it. But so what I do is, usually I do it in a laying down position. Sometimes on a yoga mat, sometimes when I'm in my bed at 3 in the morning. I have them under my pillow, I'll pull them out. But the best thing to do is whatever you're comfortable with. Either sometimes people hike with them, like I'll hike with them and sit on a rock or just get in a comfortable place. Sometimes I'll lay flat on the rock. But I found mostly laying down was the most effective for me. Everybody has a different preference, and I'd encourage, to explore your own. But for me, it works great holding them in each hand, laying down, and then I kind of keep them at my side. I don't grip them too hard. Like I'm not like, I'm just kind of lightly grip, just get a nice grip on them. And then just sit there and start breathing. I take about 10 deep breaths. Could be through your mouth or nose. I usually do it through my nose, but there's different methods. But do about 10 deep breaths. And then after that, I can kind of feel like, well, okay, I feel like a kind of a grounding sensation, but a little tingling starts to kind of come out. And so then I know, okay, usually I'll say a little blessing or a prayer. I call it the divine intelligence. I say, hey, this is amazing. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for all my gifts. I'm so grateful. Whatever's going on. But then what I do is I reach out to the infinite expansion. I just say something like, infinite expansion, I call upon this frequency signal to flow into my being. And as soon as I say flow, I feel this like electro, like pulse come through. it goes through my whole body. I can feel it bouncing around my whole body. It's a solid frequency. But at first it's like electric, and then it like calms down to be this really light kind of a buzz. And then I kind of say, okay, I let it fill me up, and then I send it back out. I send this back out into the universe, and thank you for this frequency. Thank you for allowing me to experience this. And then I just kind of sit there. Now, sometimes I'll put them on wherever I'm feeling energy, like I'll put them on my third eye sometimes. I'll put it on my chest. I'll lay them on there as I'm going into the meditation, because when I'm grounded and dialed in, then I go into that meditative mode. And this is going on for like 20, 25 minutes. But it's enough where all of a sudden and meditation's interesting because the word there's a lot of meaning to it. Basically, if we can get out of our thoughts, we're meditating. Just focus on the abyss and not thinking on stuff. And you'll get into that meditation mode, and that's when all of a sudden something might come through. And I've been calling it the divine mind. To be honest, it could be anything, but I feel like it's coming from some divinely oriented source, because the information that I get is different. It's like inspiring. It's like all of a sudden something that I may have thought of the day before, say a sculpture or a project I want to do creatively. I'll just get this amazing insight or solution on how to finish it, or how to like go about doing it, instructional, whatever it is. This information comes in during that process. It's different than if I'm sitting there going, oh, okay, what can I do, or how do I do this? It's just a different connection, I feel. So after that, it's kind of like when I do the readings too. It's like when you're done, you just kind of know you're done. It's like doing the dishes. You finish the dishes and you're kind of like, oh, I'm done with the dishes. Like squeeze the sponge out, put it away. That's kind of how this is too. You kind of come out of it and you kind of feel like, whoa, I got something really strong to spend the rest of the day contemplating with. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's kind of, and on the website and stuff, I give a little bit of instruction on there, like a couple different steps, how to go through it if you wanted to, and just kind of some more information on there to handle them.
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and you said something that makes a lot of sense, and I know Nicole is 100% in agreement here. I think as a culture and as a people, we have forgotten how to unplug.
Yes, absolutely.
We've forgotten that kind of what they say, zoning out.
Yeah.
It's not that you're, it's very healthy. It resets the mind. It does a lot of different things that we just don't benefit from anymore. And taking that time to kind of hit the pause button, put the phone down, put the iPad and everything away. Of course, I say that, and I'm one of the worst people at it.
Oh, totally.
But
easier said than done. Totally.
It is easier said than done.
Yes.
But making time for yourself and your spirituality is very important. It doesn't really matter, what your belief structure is, especially when it comes to obviously religion and things of that nature. What matters is taking that opportunity to connect with what you feel, not just on a physical level, but on a metaphysical level. And I think as a species, we have completely missed the boat on that.
Oh yeah.
Especially in the last, especially in the last 20 years, maybe even further back. But we've missed the opportunity to get in touch, and I think that is a lot of, I think, what we're missing as a species that helps us connect to, what we're here for. I could probably talk for 8 hours about this.
Well,
you're onto something really important.
Knew how to do all this. Yeah. Our ancestors knew how to do this, and we've forgotten it, or the knowledge was specifically kept from us.
Right.
But I think it's coming back, and I love that we're starting to learn how to do it again.
Yeah, and and I'll tell you straight up, when I was growing up, even having the culture that I have, even I was like, whatever, dude, don't just be, you're a freak. Or
when you're young, you don't think about it.
And then as you get older, you realize it's true. Well, capricious youth, I'll be honest with you, I was a shithead then, so I'm probably destined to be a shithead forever. But no, I think that there's something that we have missed, and I think using divination tools and all these other different things. To somebody who's not sort of doing that on a day-to-day basis, or has not been I guess, hasn't been introduced to it. This isn't like some woo-woo thing. This is something that humanity did long ago. In fact, there are still cultures that very much so do it now.
Yes, they do.
Yep.
And we're the ones that are far behind.
Oh, yeah. We're playing catch up now.
So we're playing catch up now. So, yeah, obviously, hats off to you for, number one, for having the foresight as a human.
Well, it took an artist to do it.
It took an artist.
Yep.
That's right. That third eye, right?
Yep.
You know, I just think it's imperative that folks look at these things from a different lens, you know, and it's real easy for us because obviously we've got this paranormal thing on top of us and we dabble in the woo woo, but you know, when it comes right down to it, you know, it's important that people understand that this is not one of those things. It's based in not only metaphysics, but it's also based in physics and science. So, but yeah, it's fantastic. Again, I could probably talk forever about this, so I'm going to.
And he will.
I will.
Good.
Good thing we have a podcast. So, now we talked a little bit about the metaphysics, and I can see behind you, you've got the Reiki.
These are like the chakra centers.
Right. Exactly. Do you want to kind of cover that a little bit for some of the folks that might have interest in that?
So when I do, you touched on a really important piece, and something I wanted to share was that the modality, I call the modality that I use vibrational maintenance, because you're right, we live in a culture where things are moving very quickly, and as far as like information, is it a touch of a button? I mean, your pocket computer and the phone in your pocket can send you to the moon, man. So, you know,
very much.
As a tool, oh my gosh, we have all this information at our hands. But as a deeper culture and awareness of evolution, like expansion, if we get too stuck on it, we get too, we lose that other. We almost not necessarily abuse it, but overuse it, I guess would be a great word. So vibrational maintenance, it's about, okay, we have cars, we have houses, we have families, we all have things we have to maintain. Our bodies kind of get left out because our culture doesn't really get into, oh, here are the tools to help yourself. They don't want us to know that. They want to keep us in fear and they want to keep us dangling the carrot. But we're smarter than that, and we can stop them in their tracks and say, no, I have the power to heal myself, I believe, and work on my beliefs and become who I truly am. And so like these tools for vibrational maintenance help that in the sense that they assist when you start to raise your vibration, it starts to climb and climb and climb. And an amazing, inspirational person out there these days, Abraham Hicks, you may have heard of her. She talks about it. You get on this high flying disc and it's like, yeah, you raise your vibration high enough, you reach this certain point where the typical things don't apply to you anymore. Like you're like, okay, I don't know, like typical societal things. You just reach a different place where you're seeing things differently because you've shifted your vibration. You've kind of stepped into who you truly are, and that's I think something in our culture we like you're saying we've forgotten how to do because we've lost touch of what we're all passionate about. Everything costs so much money. You're working 5 jobs just to cover your family or do whatever. Who has time to like step into who they truly are?
Exactly.
So
agreed.
I think that's really the basis of it is like saying, hey, who am I now? And understanding who that is. And vibrationally you might be there, but getting up to speed with that takes a different kind of approach. So the cards, these tools, the card readings are interesting because when I do the readings, it's a form of divination. It's an oracle deck. Like there's tarot and all these other forms. But this form is more of an internal, perspective on kind of seeing what's going on with your thoughts and yourself internally. And then, I'm kind of the guide when I do the readings with the people. I don't give too much information because I think, again, it's like a power thing. When you go to the God, the guru or whatever, you're giving your power away to somebody else, which is cool. But it's not if it leaves you hanging. Like a lot of these guys or gals will leave you hanging. And so this modality goes inward and keeps you stuck in, not stuck, but focused on your inward things that you have the power to heal yourself. I just the guide to show you to get there. I'd show you the threshold, but source works for me too. I channel information, but a lot of the cards I can kind of, I don't know if you can see them, but a lot of them have colors on them and stuff. deep colors.
Oh, yeah.
And so I put up the chakra chart because I have another little one I share with people. Is because during the readings, when they get a card, I will talk about what they see. Obviously, I deal a card, they look at the card, they tell me what they see from the card, and I'm writing it down, logging it down, and at the end, I show them how I bridge it to them. Okay, this is what's going on with you. They don't even tell me. I just pull it out. I just extract it out. Hey, this is what's going on with you. You're doing something. I can even tell them what job they're doing because I'm like, based on these colors, because a lot of the colors, like there'll be a lot of blue or a lot of red, and okay, you need more grounding energy, or you're working with a lot of people, you're using a lot of your throat chakra, you're communicating, and this is really important. And so the colors really play out throughout the readings as well as, okay, centers that they may need work on or that are imbalanced, from whatever's going on, emotional or intellectual processes in our culture,
Yep, absolutely.
So in a nutshell, that's kind of what it's about. Getting the viewer to go inward and heal, show them how to use their intuition and their own power to heal themselves instead of giving it away or saying, oh, how do I do this? Because it's just a practice. That's all it is. The more we practice, the better we get at anything, right? So that's why I put this up here, because when people see that, they go, what is that? What does that mean? But this is the root chakra, the sacral, the solar plexus, the heart, the throat, the third eye or head chakra, and then the crown at the top, where most of this is based on the Sanskrit Hindu religion, I believe, where at the top, then it goes into, there's another 4 or 5, I believe, astral planes where chakras go like outside our actual outside the physical being, the spirit being has a couple. But anyhow, so this is kind of more traditions. You see this a lot, but a lot of people don't know, and they don't know what that means, or they don't know what the colors or chakras are. And I think the word can be a little misleading. Basically, it's just energy centers. We all have them. They're within our bodies, and they become imbalanced, and that's when we need to do the work.
Right. Yeah, and
perfect explanation.
It is perfect.
Like, short and sweet, and it makes total sense.
I think short and sweet is what people want these days. They don't want a whole bunch of hooligan or woo-woo crap. They're like, okay, dude, just tell me the straightforward. What is this?
Yeah, and I think because then they just turn away. They're like, yeah, exactly.
And it's just our culture. It's absolutely true. We come from our ego, we turn people away. But when we come from our heart, there's a heart connection that we feel and that people feel. And that's the other thing I was going to share is that I believe that our planet's shifting from ego fear-based energy to a higher love-based, heart-based frequency. The heart has a brain too, they found, which is crazy. So going through that and communicating through business, through everything, it's more of a community base. It's not the me that we're seeing all these days. That's going to crash pretty quick. It's how do I work together? How do I work with you? How do we win-win? Not, I'm screwing you to make a buck. That's only for today. That philosophy I feel like is flushing down the toilet.
Well, and
it should.
It should. And I think that here's one of my, and this is such much a deeper conversation, but especially when it comes to information, my belief has been, and I will go to my mortal end believing this. When I was growing up, information was valuable. You had to work your ass off to get information, whether that's an encyclopedia or going to school. When you got a piece of information, it was incredibly valuable to you. So you never squandered that information. And right now, there's information overload. So everybody can get, at the flash of a button, get every little bit of information they have now with AI and all these other things. And listen, I use AI. I have a technical job, and when I'm not doing this, I utilize all the same things that everybody else utilizes. But I remember, and I come from a time where it was so difficult to get that information, and people made millions. They became, the Rockefellers. They became all these other people because they had the information that other people didn't. And I think we have totally dropped the ball, and my generation's probably for the most part responsible for it, because we ushered in the information age and said, hey guys, we're going to make everything so much easier for you, thinking that would expand things, that would make it but the problem is we didn't realize that human nature is to
do it the easiest way possible.
And then all of a sudden you've got a lot of people that don't understand how important information is. and using, Reiki and using all these other things, because all that information is not available on the internet, and it's not available on, on Instagram. Yes, you get the information, but to tap into it requires something from you. It requires you to be here now. And I think that's ultimately the most important point to that.
Yes. In the present, for sure.
Yeah.
Being able to put down that device, put down that addiction to the information almost, to say, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
I think there should be a balance. Exactly. Like you could use that, but then, okay, put it away and now go into here and do your meditation or whatever. Like, keep it balanced, because if not, then, eesh.
Well, and they don't understand the difference between, I say there's people in my generation that do the same damn thing, but they don't understand the difference between a crutch and a tool. You got to understand there's a variation.
Good point.
If it's a crutch, then you're leaning too much on it. If it's a tool has a place that can be put away.
One of my favorite quotes from our daughter is, she obviously she's in college, so she's at that age where the phone has got to be on 24/7.
Yes.
But the funny thing is, I'm like, what would happen if you had to go back to like just even early 1990 and live, And she's like, I wouldn't survive 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
isn't that fascinating?
I mean, that's the way they think. Yeah. And I'm like, it was really nice not having to like constantly check, your phone. You just lived your life. You didn't have to worry about accountability constantly.
Well, and I think they were given a very, I listen to a lot of different podcasts and stuff like that. And I listened to Smartless the other day with Will Arnett, Jason Bateman, all those guys. But Will Arnett said something that I thought was really interesting. With his kids, and I guess, guys, I know this is way off the path, but it kind of isn't either. He basically said with his kids that the more that they are not virtual, he gives them more freedom in the real world and less freedom virtually. So like when they were 16, he would not give them the ability to use some of the social platforms. But if they were to want to do something out in the real world, he found himself giving them a lot more flexibility. And I think that's much more important to, honestly, I found that really kind of, I took that to heart. That was really quite poignant. So again, it's just another one of those be here now for
how we use that information.
Well, sure.
you hit on a really good point too. Is that, man, like if we look back at the last 75 years, it doesn't seem like a lot of time. We're just talking like the 50s till now. Dude, the phone. Just look at the phone. It's expanded so much exponentially that it's just a matter of time before we're going to be like hologramming each other and
I know.
it's probably already there now.
I'm sure it is.
Fascinating.
Well, and they've
in
got
one perspective. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I remember watching was it Big Bang where they had a virtual presence anyway, where Sheldon's running around there with his virtual presence machine. Would not surprise me one bit if, that dude who's on TV a lot, and, I'm not going to say his name, but he has those electric cars. And anyway, he's developing those sort of things. And in my personal opinion,
I'm sure he is. Yeah.
That is going to be something that first of all, it's very frightening. And I mean, people are going to eat that up. And anyway, long story short, your rods. No, I'm just kidding. I could speak, like I said, it's something that I will go on forever about.
Well, what I get from the conversation, I think it's a really important thing, is that we're here now, and in the next 5 years is going to seem like 20 years because the advancements that are going to come. It's like them pitching us the PC, the personal computer. Man, everybody thought they're crazy. No one's going to want that shit. But now, we can't live without it. We got all these devices and everything running off it. And it's kind of interesting when you hear these guys talk about, like, you're going to have this bot in your house. It's going to do everything, and you're just going to hang out. It's going to go and they're going to be making services and goods. And you're like, hey,
I know,
what?
Crazy.
And they're like, you're getting universal income. Why do you care? And I'm like going, what? Like, who's...
Does nobody else see the problem in this?
I don't know. It's by design, of course, but it's just interesting.
Of course.
But it's like the Jetsons has come to life.
Oh, yeah,
That's
for
all
sure.
I can think of. Is like
That's
watching the Jetsons. I'm like, that will never
Yes.
happen in my lifetime,
Yeah.
but it very well could.
It's starting
it's here.
we're starting to see it. Like
Yes,
flying cars
yes.
we're only a couple of years out from that, you know?
Yeah.
I know.
Like drone cars, hey.
Yeah.
Take
yeah.
10 minutes
And
to
we
get to
see all
Sedona
this.
instead of an hour, you know? That'd be
Oh,
great.
yeah, no kidding. God, we'd live in Sedona and work out here if we could do that.
I just
Seriously.
teleport.
Yeah.
That's what I'm waiting
Right.
for. It's a
know.
teleportation that I can just zoom right in there.
But we say all this
Yeah.
to say that utilizing what you have, you know, with the channeling rods,
Yeah.
you know, we've kind of gone through this whole, you know, interesting journey to come back to. It's important to learn how to channel yourself, how to take
Yeah.
the tools that you provide to find that centering. You know, I don't think we're lost as a species to not be able to come back to it. And I think you're right. I think
Yes.
a lot of people are starting to,
Yes.
you know, make no mistake about it. Sedona is absolutely busy. It is jam packed all the time. Now, granted, probably not during the winter, but
No,
you know,
it is.
people-
It is.
is it now too?
Is it?
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's becoming all year round, which is great.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't realize that the reason a lot of that is because of this. You know, a lot of people are going to the mountains. A lot of people are going hiking. They're going to the art shows and the craft shows, and the red rock means something. There's something in there when it comes to sort of like these hot spots and being able to access things that they're not able to access, you know, whether it be in the Midwest or wherever you're at. So it's important to have tools like yours, you know, available. And obviously Sedona being,
It's a special place.
Yeah.
There is a special
Yeah.
feeling there. And once you go once, like for me, it's just a
Yes.
connection now. And
Yeah.
I want to just keep going back. And if I could live there, I would. But
yeah.
like we said previously, we can't afford to. But I adore it. Like there's just a connection. And you just feel it on a spiritual level.
Yeah,
Totally.
for sure.
I when I moved away and I was living in San Diego, I was laid off and I was in this position like, oh God, what next? Like, holy cow. But I could hear Source going, okay, it's time for you to step into who you truly are. And I'm like, okay, well, if I stay in California, I have to work a full-time job no matter what, or maybe two, you know? And when am I going to have time to do this? So I was going through this whole process, and it's funny because one of the things I tell people, it's like, okay, if you're in the popsicle business, you're not going to move to Alaska to sell your popsicles. You're going to move somewhere where people are like buying, it's hot, they want your popsicle. And artists kind of have to think that way too. Like, you know, you kind of have to, so I knew, like, this card deck took me about 22 years to make. I mean, I had it done, but honestly, intellectually, I was there, but emotionally, it took me many years to get up to speed with what the hell, who I truly was and what this was about and what I was going to be doing.
For sure.
And so once I reached that point where I was like, all right, Source, I had three options. It was like, go back to Ojai. Ojai is kind of a really spiritual community, artist community as well. But again, it's in California and it's uberly expensive. So it's like, all right, where do I go? And then all of a sudden I heard Sedona again. And I was like, that's it. Because people are coming. It's like, go to the place where you can sell the popsicles. People are coming to a hot spot for this type of information. They're wanting this kind of healing, or have come before and want to revisit. They're taking their personal journeys to have an experience out here. And that's why they come. So you're right. People come to connect, to feel the energy. There's a lot of curious people. It has changed a lot. I'm sure you guys have been out there during the 90s or prior, but prior to the 2000s,
I
man,
wasn't,
it really changed.
Yeah.
It changed pretty heavily. I was even amazed coming back how much it changed. I was like, whoa, it's kind of more underground. All that kind of stuff's more underground, which is totally cool because you could still get it. It's still accessible and still figure out what's there. And maybe it needed to go through that process just to kind of wean out and just kind of get more grounded and more deeper into it, I guess. But you're right.
Sure.
There isn't a slow, I guess you can kind of say a slower time, but it's still hundreds of cars parked at the trailhead. I mean, you're just like, wow, okay. And it used to kind of like be an issue, but it's not, because you talk to all these people, they're all enjoying the same thing, and most of them just go about a half a mile or a mile in and turn around. So you're not going to see anybody if you go way out there, man. You know, to the side.
No. If you find yourself in Flagstaff, you went too far.
Yeah, right.
I will say though, like every time we've been there, there's never an unhappy person in
No,
Sedona.
no.
I've never met an unhappy person. They're always relaxed, enjoying the day, and it's so great to see that and to feel that. I mean, you can feel people's auras when you're around them and what kind of mood they're in. And you always just feel peace and you feel happy, and it's just a very special place.
Absolutely.
Totally. And one of the things I was really digging are those shows, those little art craft fair shows you guys where we met, because they're more of a raw outlet. It's not like a store. It's kind of more of not necessarily a carnival, but it's more of like a different kind of experience, different kind of setting. But you just, from being a vendor there and doing it, it's really amazing because you get to talk to so many people that have never seen stuff like this and are interested. It's just opening more and more people up to what else is out there as a healing tool, available tool as you expand your own awareness or your own person, your own being.
For sure.
Right.
And I think we're going to see more and more tools like this being developed as we move forward. As people are stepping up and realizing, we're evolving. We need these kind of tools to educate and to resonate with, to utilize.
100%.
Absolutely. I know that at least in the paranormal community, this is going to be a big thing, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Once people start using them and learn, because we haven't really used them on an investigation yet, but I'm trying to figure out exactly how to go about that. But I'm excited to try and see what it
cool.
does.
It's because there's a lot to it that it brings in a lot of different things when it comes to doing actual investigations. Because copper, that's known to help conduct for spiritual
and quartz.
So it's like bringing in a lightning rod. So
I'm curious about using it during an Estes session, which if you want to explain to him, if he may not know.
Are you familiar with it? What an Estes method
Estes method.
That's hard to say
No.
at one time.
No.
So in the paranormal community,
it was developed at the Stanley Hotel,
right? Which is why it's called Estes
Park.
We know we kind of by second nature know the people that developed it and kind of brought it to. But what they do is kind of a sensory deprivation. So they cover their eyes and then they wear noise canceling headphones, and they put this thing called an SB7 box, or it could be anything that does kind of the sweeping back and forth of radio. Yeah. And in doing that, they can hear, the thought is spirits can utilize that to say words, to actually communicate. But you'll find that most of the people, it's awesome.
And one person will ask the questions,
right? Yeah,
and they can't hear what you're saying, and then what the belief is that spirits can then talk through the radio into the person wearing the headphones and answer the question.
Yes, what she said.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, you'll find that a lot of people that do this, they hold crystals. They hold things. Number one, to protect themselves, and also to help them channel and get some of that information. And
connect higher. So with these, I'm thinking it's just going to majorly boost that.
Yeah, we've got a friend.
We've got a friend that I'm going to put these in her hands,
and she's very well known for this.
She's awesome at the SD session. I'll have to send you to their page and have you check it out afterwards. But I can't wait to see her use these.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, Greg, I think we're going to move in, so we'll be there probably in about a few days, and we got some dogs.
Problem,
I'm sorry.
we got a place for you. We'll keep you guys hanging out. We'll hit some of the sites. Get you guys recalibrated.
Yeah.
But before we get to do that, let's do this. Let's go ahead and tell our audience where they can find you.
Okay.
Kind of everything that you're doing and how they can catch up with you.
Sure. First and foremost, probably the website's the best way. It's just www.gregbressani.com. Maybe we could put it in the notes later or something, however you guys do it. But it's really easy. You go on there, and it's pretty user-friendly. It talks a lot about the product information, what the cards are about, how to use the cards. I basically put the guidebook on there. And then, everything's, there's a shop. You can point and click. It's all set up. Use your credit card. I ship it out. It's all included in the price, so it's kind of cool. You don't have to keep digging around with all these prices and tag-ons. But everything's included, tax, everything, and then I send them out. So it's I have I think there's 10 of each on stock on there right now, 10 of these different sizes. But if they sell out, I just put it on there. Hey, it sold out. It takes me a minute to. It's a hands-on organic process. If they're made in the USA, all the products come from the USA. The crystals, I forgot to tell you, they come from mines in Arkansas. I mean, they're hand-selected jewelry-grade points. They're not just like thrown in a box or picked out. They're really nice points. So that adds to the quality as well. But the website's the best. And then if you're in Sedona, there's only 4 shows happening this season for the spring season. Every month, there's one this weekend. It's rained out. We're not going to do it. It's too blustery. But there'll be one in March, April, and May. Probably around the holidays. Like there's one probably around Mother's Day in May. Probably around the Easter weekend in April, and then March. I'm not sure. Maybe the middle of March. But usually there's like 12. So we're hoping maybe in the fall they'll be a little bit more scheduled. They're usually about 10 to 12 in the fall. So we'll see if that's better. But that's the other way you can find me. And then this in Sedona, there's let's see. I don't have any storefronts right now, but they're coming. I'm going to be setting up accounts. It's kind of my business plan. Set up more accounts and possibly do readings at one of the locations there. I'm not quite sure yet. Eventually, I'd like to set up my own reading room, but that's coming later. So. I love it. I love it's really natural with you guys. Like it's just a nice, smooth process. I like being ourselves. I feel like I could be myself. It's been a really great experience. So I really appreciate that.
For sure, we're really happy to do it. Other than that, Greg, it's been great having you on. Obviously, having met you, we knew we wanted to have you on, and I think what you're doing is so important, and I think it's important not just in paranormal, but it's important, like we talked about.
Yeah.
Just for being able to center and being able to be us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to get this out and to share this with people that we know because I think it's going to make a huge difference in the field.
For sure. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate that too. Thanks so much for considering me and having me on. It's so awesome to have the opportunity.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were lucky.
Yeah.
Just ran onto you and it was fantastic.
It's serendipitous.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, again, thank you so much, and we're going to go ahead and let you get back to your evening, and we certainly appreciate you being on.
Sounds great. Thank you guys too. I'm so grateful. And listen, come back and hook up with me. We'll take you out to a couple sites. We'll get you guys back in there.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Lots more to talk about.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, guys.
Greg, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Have a great night. Take care.
Yeah. That's
X.
right. X.
Generation X.
You need to go out there and get these things.
Yeah, they are awesome.
Yeah. Greg, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was just meant to be meeting, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Serendipitous, as we said.
Yes.
But, we have yet to use these in a paranormal investigation, but we have used them otherwise. You definitely get the feels. There's a lot to it. But more importantly, it's all about intent. Remember that.
Yeah.
And Greg had some great information.
Yeah. If you go to his website, which is gregbressani.com, it will explain to you like all the things that he has for sale there and how to use these rods. And you can reach out to him as well from there. He's obviously, you can see, super nice guy.
Yeah.
Is willing to help anybody. And I that's really cool because he didn't have the great big ones.
No, he didn't.
At the show. We got the medium-sized ones, which are easier to kind of hold, at least for my small hands, which is why I picked these. But those big ones, can you imagine what they do?
Jeez.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, they're going to be pretty amazing.
That may be a later purchase at some point in time. But definitely hook up with him, check him out, and we'll try to keep updates on when we actually do some investigations with them and see what they do. And I plan on putting these in the hands of someone very special.
Yes.
When she does an Estes session, and I'm curious to see what that happens. And I think you know who you are.
Yeah, you know who you are.
So, but yeah, thank you so much, Greg. It was great meeting you, and hopefully we can have you back someday. But definitely, guys, go check these out. And he's got other art as well, if these are not what you're interested in. Even the oracle cards, which are all photographs that he has taken on the oracle cards. So, check him out.
He's really approachable, guys. Reach out to him, and thanks for watching.
Yeah, well,
see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to Generation X Paranormal. Remember, all editing is done in-house and we're a self-funded podcast, so your support truly makes a difference. Like, subscribe, and follow us on all socials to stay connected. Special thanks to Eric Cooley for creating our music. And don't forget to check out our Patreon for exclusive content and ways to help us keep the show going. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the unexplained.